So we all know that the Tether Hunter is one of the best builds if you're trying to complete or farm Legend Onslaught. It was the first build I covered for the Into the Light update because I thought it was that good in Legend Onslaught. Well, there might be a new king of Onslaught builds, and I honestly didn't think anything could top the Tether Hunter, and I ended up dropping 1,304 kills, which I'm pretty sure is a personal record for me, and one of the Guardians even hit me with the WTF Plunder. That's how powerful this build is if you get down a very simple gameplay loop, and that will be the main focus here, because if you understand this and get it down, you become an unkillable Phoenix with restoration ×2 up all the time, and that's without using a healing grenade, so we still get to keep our fusion grenade with the touch of flame aspect, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know how strong the Solar Warlock fusion grenades are, especially if you remember the Starfire Protocol days. We also keep Radiant up for that 25% weapon damage boost, and then we stack this with solar weapon surges. So now our heavy and primary hit very hard, and then we scale our Scorch damage up from 3 different sources, so it ticks for yellow crit numbers between 4k and 8k damage, which turns your primary into a slaying machine when you don't want to be using your heavy. It is the best ad clear build I have used in Legend Onslaught, but it also brings the damage you need and the survivability you need. And when I mean ad clear, I mean waves 40 to 50. When you get up against those tanky yellow bar ogres or knights, well, they don't stand a chance against this build. And then to top it all off, we can combine this build with 3 different exotics that all accomplish something different depending on your playstyle and what you think you and your team needs. I choose the most offensive option because I just want to watch everything go up in flames when I play it, and I love slinging solar blades across the battlefield, but that's just my personal preference. We have one setup where it's geared to dropping a well of radiance every 25 to 30 seconds, so if your goal is to spam one after the other and drop it as many times as you can, we have a setup for that. And then we have a setup more for if you're roaming and still want to drop that well of radiance quite often. There's a different exotic that gives you a good well uptime, but still allows you to take advantage and roam the battlefield if you don't feel like dropping a well at that point. That's our second setup. And then the third one is when you want to watch the entire world burn and scorch everything and watch ignitions go off left and right in groups of enemies just by using your primary weapon and then adding the heavy into that. And that's the way I like to play the build personally, just because I get pretty bored of Well of Radiance and I've played it for so long. Now, regardless of what exotic you choose and what super you choose, the core of the gameplay remains the same with the ability loop that you need to understand. For our class ability, we take Phoenix Dive. For our jump ability, which I normally don't talk about, we take Strafe Glide, so we get a strong directional control while we're in the air. Incinerator Snap as your melee ability, which you're going to have up all the time. That's just a free ignition and radiant. And then Fusion Grenade, because it's so strong. For the 2 aspects, that's Touch of Flame. That just allows our Fusion Grenade to explode twice. It does great damage, adds great Scorch damage. The second aspect we take is Heat Rises. This is when we consume a grenade, we get the Heat Rises buff, and just by killing things, we extend this buff up to 30 seconds, and any final blows while airborne, we get melee energy back. This is a bunny hop, or you could be gliding way up in the air, doesn't matter. So it's very easy to have as many incinerator snaps as you want, which I don't even use enough. But the main reason we take this is when we consume our grenade, that allows Phoenix Dive as our class ability to give us restoration ×2. And since Heat Rises lasts for 30 seconds and extends just on kills, which we're always killing things, we always have this up after 1 consumption of the grenade. Then the next time we get the grenade back, we can just use it as a normal fusion grenade for great extra damage. But now our Phoenix Dive allows restoration ×2. So we fire off a volley of our heavy rocket launcher, and as soon as that volley leaves the rocket launcher, you hit your Phoenix Dive and dive to the ground. Doesn't matter if you're a foot off the ground or way up in the air. Those rockets will seek and definitely kill a whole group of enemies, as you can see in the gameplay. This instantly procs restoration ×2 up to 15 seconds, and now we're keeping restoration ×2 and Heat Rises up all the time just by killing things, whether that be with your heavy or your primary weapon. The reason for this is Ember of Empyrean's proccing, and it's allowing those solar weapon or ability final blows to extend the duration of restoration and radiant applied to you. We combine that with Ember of Singeing, so our Phoenix Dive, which is our class ability, is always going to have a 300% additional base regen rate because we get that class ability to proc when we scorch targets. And again, our primary and heavy is always scorching because we're radiant, and we combine that with the artifact mod, which is Kindling Trigger. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply scorch to unscorched combatants. Then we also take Ember of Ashes, so all those scorch stacks are increased by 50% in most cases, and it doesn't matter whether the scorch comes from our weapons, our melee ability, or our fusion grenade, and then we also take Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. So again, the general gameplay loop for all of this is so simple, yet so strong. Consume your grenade, fire off a volley of your heavy. As soon as that heavy is shot off, dive to the ground. That's your infinite restoration ×2. You use your melee ability to get radiant, or the multi-kill that you got from the rocket launcher will give you radiant because of Flint Striker from the artifact. Rapid solar weapon final blows grant radiant, and that's it. It's so simple but so strong, and that's where the exotics come into play, and tip the build whatever way you want to do it. For the heavy, that is Eyes of Tomorrow, your exotic rocket launcher. It has the perk Adaptive Ordnance. Defeating 4 or more combatants in a single volley increases the damage of the next volley and refunds ammunition. So it's so easy to defeat 4 enemies in Onslaught, right, with those waves of enemies coming in. So you're gonna have infinite ammo in this basically all the time. I like to combine it with Dawn Chorus, and I like to run Daybreak with the build. This allows my Daybreak projectiles deal more damage and Scorch targets on impact. For single target damage, it's great. It's one of the highest damage dealing supers in the game when you combine it with Dawn Chorus. But a huge thing it provides is the Scorch is improved, and you gain a small amount of melee energy when you Scorch damages a target. This Scorch damage increase is like a 3 times increase at base. So now our Scorch hits for a crazy amount on enemies, and it just allows group ad clear even with your primary weapon. Now the other 2 exotics you could run with this are the 2 chest pieces. That is Phoenix Protocol is the first one. If your goal is to drop a well one after another on every point that you're protecting or the boss room, then Phoenix Protocol is the best choice there. You just drop your well, you're going to instantly get 50% back, and you'll get that other 50% very quickly by dealing the damage with your weapons while you're in that well. Now the other one is Mantle of Battle Harmony. You can still drop your well quite often with this, but it also gives you the 25% weapon damage boost when you just get solar kills, because you're on a solar subclass, and bonus super energy on every kill. So if you still want a well and want to help the team in the well aspect, then this is great because you can still roam when you need to during those waves of enemies and use Eyes of Tomorrow with it. So those are the 3 options. I tried every one of them, and I still like Dawn Chorus the most because the Scorch damage you output is just a lot higher. It provides more ignitions within groups of enemies when you're using your primary weapon, and it allows Daybreak to hit really hard on enemies, especially single target enemies like the Tormentor, and it does work against him as soon as both shoulder blades are broken. And then against the 2 big knights that spawn in, or against Briggs, I've just found it a lot easier to kill one of the big knights and half health the other one as soon as they're spawned in with my super than to drop my well, because my teammates are always just running around. They might even be dead, they might not even be taking advantage of well, and I just move a lot more. But that's just me personally and why I like Dawn Chorus. The dim link is down below for you guys to copy. I've already talked so long on this build already, so I'll leave a screenshot up of all the mods you want to use, and there's nothing crazy in there. It's very simple, and you just want to aim for 100 resilience for your damage reduction as far as stats go, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.